They consider the average over a day, and then they average over a year. It's like, if you were to cut off somebody's arm and you lose all the blood, if it happens in one shot, and then average it over a year, you really didn't get hurt. This is what's happening here. You could have a month of just murderous sound and pollution. Then if you went for another month and had little or no, your average would fall down by half.
Well, that's what's happening in Brooklyn, actually.
Okay.
Now, what neighborhoods in particular?
All the way from Bedford-Stuyvesant in the south to Bay Ridge. Parks of your neighborhood, you're in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Prospect Heights, Sunset Park.
Yeah.
You look at it, if you look at the runways, you just extend out the runways.
Maryland has some maps she can show you.
And-
It's literally over Von King Park, right in Bed-Stuy. It just flies right over.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so everybody in the world recognizes this DNL threshold as a problem. It was set up in the 1970s when airplane noise was different, people's attitudes were different, the frequency content of the noise was different. So we want to see them change that threshold from 65 down to 55. The Federal Aviation and the Department of Defense, along with HUD, are the only people, and I think that's because they're brick buildings, still use 65 DNL. However, next slide, please.
Okay, so.
Next.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I should have
Yeah.
said that. The Environmental Protection Agency, the people who are supposed to know what's going on, their threshold is 55. The FERC is 55. It's sort of repeating itself. FERC is 55. The world,
What is
next
FERC?
one,
Next one.
Federal Energy,
Something, okay.
Federal Energy Development or some research, something like that. But it's like nuclear power. But key also is the World Health Organization is 55 and 50. World Bank is 55, and I can go on and on. We just there's just too much power in the aircraft industry, in the airline industry, and they're not considering what's going on with people's health. And there are some severe effects that I'm going to talk about, and then Jeff is going to talk about. Okay, next one, please. Okay, Harvard has shown a decrease of 3.9% of cardiovascular disease in Medicare patients with a DNL reduction from 65 to 55.
That's significant.
Now, the reason I make a thing about Medicare is because when they did the study, they used Medicare records. So the people are 65 or 63, whatever the age is. But that isn't to say that they're not also happening in the younger ones. In fact, in children, we believe, are probably getting even worse. But I just qualify it only because they use that population. We must get, go back.
Sorry,
All right, I guess
sorry.
I could say the words. We must get the FAA to reduce the significant noise threshold from 65 to 55. 2 congressmen from Illinois have written a letter to Huerta, Administrator Huerta, on it. I've been trying to get off a congressional delegation to either A, put in some legislation for it, or at least support the letter that Congressman Quigley and Congresswoman Schakowsky.
Do we have a
sent.
copy of the letter?
I don't know if you do, but I'll certainly make it
I've
available
just
to
sent it
you.
to Stina in the past, but I could resend
Now,
it.
I've been working with Congressman Israel's office, and they're considering doing something. They're
Okay.
working on it. But
Okay.
we got to get everybody together. Okay, next one, please. The State Assembly and Senate have passed a bill to require that Port Authority perform a Part 150 study, and New Jersey was supposed to do the same thing. It turns out that the governor of the Port Authority is doing both, New York and New Jersey, which is great. We went after a law because the Port Authority would not voluntarily do the studies. If there was a law, they would have had to do it.
Yeah.
We've missed out on millions of dollars of noise mitigation efforts. And people talk about jobs in putting in the noise insulation. And while it's not as comprehensive as an environmental assessment or a supplemental environmental impact statement, if done properly, will provide some needed environmental data. And quite frankly, the reason we went after the Part 150 is because we got absolutely no support from the congressional delegation for pushing the FAA. It's been a very upsetting point, to me anyway. By the way, when I said EA in there, the EA is a step that's done before an SEIS. It's another poor man's SEIS. It's called an environmental assessment.
Yeah.
Okay, what the Part 150 noise study will do is it's going to look at the LaGuardia operating at the same time, because when LaGuardia catches a cold, JFK sneezes. They can't look at them separately. We're going to develop noise contours, which we'll talk about in a second, and obviously then attempt to mitigate the noise either by flight path changes or by insulation. Okay. So this will give you
By
some idea.
insulation, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, insulating buildings, homes. It doesn't help you on a summer day, but at least in the, when kids are going to sleep, it's going to make it easier for them to sleep.
Are there insulation programs that exist right now?
Oh yeah,
And
the
some-
billions have been
All over
spent.
the country.
Billions.
Okay.
Well, we've not spent one dime in New York State. They've done some in schools, but never a home.
And why is that?
Because they're afraid it would cost too much money, is my humble opinion. You can quote
And
me.
the
but
FAA
that's-
pays for at least 80%.
Okay, this is an older map for LaGuardia. We should get a new one in the next couple of weeks, by the way. So it's 2008. It doesn't reflect then the airspace redesign. It doesn't reflect next gen, but I can make some important points with this. This is a 65 DNL line. And why is 65 DNL important is because that's the threshold that the government uses to say we will consider insulating or mitigating the noise. Okay? And of course it gets bigger and bigger. You'll notice that the peaks align with the runways. Your district is down here someplace.
You're not.
While this is 65, I'm sure now with the changes that this has come down and broadened, but certainly if it was at 55, you would come way down because that factor of 10 is a factor of 10 in noise. Okay, next one. The FAA and the Port Authority analysis are based on theoretical models, and we need more noise monitors and maybe pollution monitors to understand what is really happening to our environment. Right now we have no pollution monitors that I know of, except maybe one near JFK.
I'll finish.
Yeah, go ahead, please, next.
Oh, sorry.
Noise monitors show that the EIS was clearly wrong. It turns out that the models make assumptions, and you're taking a big average and you lose. One particular place we found in Floral Park in Queens, only because there's a monitor out there, they were off by a factor of 10 of what they were theoretically predicting. So the monitors they have now are just at the runway ends. We need them deeper into the neighborhoods, and we need the monitors to be used as a check, not to change the theoretical, but to check on what the theoretical says, so we're not making any mistakes. We know it's wrong. We know it's wrong down near the Rockaways. We know they're wrong in Floral Park, and I'm sure they're wrong in LaGuardia. I don't know. I can't say that it's catastrophically wrong, but chances are it's wrong. Okay, next. Here's the argument that we presented, which actually helped us, I think. Chicago O'Hare has 33 monitors. Boston has 30. San Francisco 26. JFK 10, and LaGuardia 4, which is horrible. In my opinion, is a shameful
The
situation.
density of the population is ridiculous.
Yes,
Right.
it's
And
a
we've
drug.
now, they've sort of announced, the Port Authority, that they're going to increase by 8 more. It still doesn't even get us close, but it's better.
Right. Heretofore,
sorry.
what has been the explanation for the disproportionately low number of monitors?
This is only really an issue that we've brought since we've been pushing it within the last year.
I'm going to say that now.
But that's where, there were 2 issues where the congressional delegation came together. One was pushing for what's called a roundtable, where the community is more involved. The other is for the noise monitors.
You know, when you address questions like this to the Port Authority or the FAA, there's a tremendous amount of inertia in this area, in this part of the country, and they either deflect or don't answer, delay, and don't get back to you. So your questions, if you ask them, they're going to be more specific with you. When we ask them, they just basically ignore us.
Okay.
We're still trying to figure out why 2 lanes were closed. It's taking about 6 months to do that. So.
Well, that's okay.
Maybe forever.
There are 2 major impacts of aircraft noise. Annoyance based on the 65 criteria, and of course the health. Based up until now, it's always been annoyance. That's how the study was.
Okay.
They would ask people, "Are you annoyed?" and they would say yes, and how much. Now it's not an issue of just annoyance; it's health.
Yeah.
Good. Next slide, please.
Yes, I hear you.
New York State Department of